Welcome to the first episode of In the Cutting Room. This is a new podcast that I wanted to create. And the name comes from the old way of doing filmmaking. So back in the day, they had actual film strips. They were cutting film, stitching it together, and that is how they made movies. And what was left in that cutting room are decisions, interesting ideas that never made it. And what I want this space to be is a space to talk about those creative decisions, but in the context of performance ads and content in general. This is going to be a place where we're only talking about content. And it's really just going to be me talking about how I see the world, how I see the process of going about creating great content for brands. Will there be guests? Yeah, at times, but this is not going to be your standard interview podcast. This is going to be a lot of teaching, a lot of in-depth analysis, and even showing and telling what is going on in a lot of the ads that we're creating. This will kind of give you a behind-the-scenes look of what it takes to make great ads and really just speaking to that. I believe that there's an opportunity and a need for this type of decision making to be put out into the world. A lot of times when you hear a lot of podcasts and content, it talks about at a high level ads and what's working, what's not. But there's not really a space in which people are breaking down content, breaking down ads, understanding frameworks, understanding how do you come up with, ideas, how do you have creative ops within your organization or within outside organizations helping you, like outside studios. This is our chance to do that. So that's what today and the podcast is going to be. Speaking of type of content, what you're going to expect over the next 4 to 5 episodes, we're going to go in depth on creative strategy from the perspective of Goodo Studios and what we do. And we're going to break it down step by step. You can completely steal or take or get inspiration from our process. And I hope that you'll get a really good idea of what we're doing from start to finish when it comes to creating content. Then beyond that, there's lots of other ideas, but just for the first 5 episodes, that is what you should expect. Now, enough about the podcast. Let's actually go in depth and actually get started. I don't want to spend too much time, with fluff. And that's why I love not having to have a interview, is because I don't have to do any intros. We just get right into it. So I want to start with this story or this idea. And that is that the idea of flying is actually the craziest thing. You've got this huge metal object outside flying in the air, a bunch of people, and it's just like defying gravity. And it helps people, humans, travel the world. The crazier thing is that how safe flying is. So since 1997, the number of fatal air accidents has been no more than 1 for every 2 billion person miles flown, and thus is one of the safest modes of transportation when measured by distance travel. Meanwhile, most of us drive a car every single day, and most people don't have anxiety when it comes to driving. A lot of more people have anxiety when it comes to flying. The ironic thing is that driving is actually very dangerous for a human compared to flying. And what's most interesting is that most car accidents actually happen in an area that is familiar to a person's life. So 50% of all car crashes actually happen within 25 miles of a driver's home. Okay, so what does this have to do with content? The thing about content is that with pilots, they have to do this full checklist every single time they're flying. So there's this protocol. And even if the pilot's been doing this for 30 years, they've got a process and they adhere to that process. And when it comes to driving, you don't really have a checklist. You feel like you're good and you make assumptions, you make mistakes. And without a checklist, randomness creeps in, and this is where kind of danger comes into driving. So let's kind of tie this back to content here for a second. A lot of times it's so easy to go into autopilot and just start creating ads without any sort of true system. And many people and brands will create content without a checklist or protocol that they follow every single time. They just kind of, okay, let's just go and let's just create content. Let's create a test. But there's just no true intention behind it. There's no system. There's nothing that's happening. And that's when we start to kind of break down on performance, because we don't know why are ads working, why are ads not working. And you're kind of left with a lot of data, but you don't have any sort of feedback loop on that data comparative, to help you with those creative decisions. So I want to break down our process. You could take this process and steal it. You could do exactly what you want with it, but this is our process. This is the creative strategy and production 101. This is what we're going to do. And we're going to get you a checklist, or a checklist that we do, and you can make your own checklist. But the idea is to inspire you to actually have some sort of creative production system. And people like to talk about systems, but there's no one really talking about what does that actually look like, step by step, minute detail by minute detail. And that's what we're going to do. Okay. So in general, let's just think about each step of the process. You've got ideation, so coming up with ideas. You've got production, producing the ads. You've got the third step, which is launching the ads, putting into the media buying, all that stuff. And the fourth step is the data review, and how those things kind of come back to number one, ideation. Okay. And in this series of episodes and today, we're going to go through each of those steps, and I'm going to give you everything I've got, everything. And there's nothing that I'm not going to talk about or hide. There's no secret sauce that I'm hiding. This is everything I've got, and that's pretty much it. Today, we're going to talk about ideation. So today is going to be all things, the complete creative strategy guide from start to finish that we do here at Goodo Studios. So let's jump into it. That's what to expect. This is the thing. All right. So I'm going to start with another story, which is the story of how I almost lost $1 million for my client. And it was because we almost didn't run an ad that we created. So we were on production and we're working with this person. It was like a friend of a friend, and, not a great actress, just kind of regular person like you and me. And we get recording the script, and she's just a bit more tense than we would like. She kind of like looks off to the camera at times. And like, as we were shooting it, I just like was not confident. I was like, I don't know about this, but I was like, maybe if we like edit it, it'll be fine. Like, let's just like keep going. And we get the edit back and it still felt stiff. But at the same time, I was like, the edit was done well. Everything else was like kind of like good, but like maybe she wasn't as great as I would hope for. But I was like, whatever, let's just run it. So team sends it over. It gets run. Guess what? $1 million in spend. Over $1 million in spend. So revenue is even more than that, right? And that is just like a crazy concept of, hey, I've studied thousands of ads, I've studied thousands of accounts, and there's still always things that I miss, right? But what I can say is that we have had a ton of success of making great ads, and it comes from this ideation process. And most of the time, when I'm looking at an ad account or looking at ads, the reason why it fails is less about the shooting and the editing, and more so about bad ideation. So very rarely is the camera talent the issue, as much as it is the idea was bad from the start. So let's actually break down how to create $1 million ads from start to finish. So I'm going to first kind of go through how we would prepare for coming up with ideas. See, a lot of people think about creative strategy and they're like, okay, great. Like, what hooks are we going to do? What angles are we going to do? Like, let's start stealing this True Classics ad and let's do the same thing that they did. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Hold up. Let's first take a step back and actually have true intention and do some deep research. So I'm going to walk you through that research process before we even get to writing a script. So I'm going to give you a bunch of different things that has nothing to do, or it does have something to do with script writing, but like, I am not going to be, okay, here's how to find the next 10 hooks, right? Or like steal this template. No, no, no. Like, I am going to give you things that you could do that's going to take a lot of time and is very hard, but I have dedicated people on my team to do these things and help us do these things. But this does take a lot of time before we even write. We're doing weeks of research. So let's jump in. The first thing is product education. David Ogilvy said, first, study the product you are going to advertise. The more you know about it, the more likely you are to come up with a big idea for selling it. As you get to know me on this podcast, you're going to know that I'm obsessed with David Ogilvy. He is my hero. If I could meet one person, dead or alive, it might be David Ogilvy. I think that would be true. So, product education, that's key. That's so key. And funny enough, there's a lot of times where even people that are working within the brand do not do enough product education. So you really want to dive into your product, but like, read all the clinical studies, read any blog, watch any YouTube video, read books if you need to. Read everything that you can about this product. It is so important to start there. Now, I'm not talking about it from the sense of, oh, what is the brand, about? No. Like, just core, how does this product work? What are the studies? What is everything? Just like very no brand at all. Just like, how does the technology work? How does this shampoo work? How does this ingredient affect the skin or whatever it is? You got to go deep on the research. So that's first. Second, you go into competition. Now, do not go look at competition to copy them, okay? You want to look at your competition as a way to better understand your positioning, okay? So they have decided their angles, their messaging, who they want to go after. Awesome. If you copy that brand, it is going to be very hard to win because you're just trying to like take and graft off of like their people and like their messaging and whatnot. And if you can actually understand where they are, you can actually open up opportunities of where is your competition not. And this is the beauty of positioning. So looking at competition helps you understand where can you position yourself within this market, within this industry. How can you maybe even create your own sub, category within the larger category, right? So you want to look at your competition, but again, not because you're going to copy them. You also want to be looking at competitors in kind of maybe different industries or activities that still affect your sales. And this is something that is like kind of important because people have a limited amount of money that they're going to spend. So they might be spending it on something else, like a different activity, a different type of product. And you're basically trying to get them to spend that money instead of over here, right? So list out your competition. I love to like build a table and literally just competition, website, socials, their ad library, TikTok, YouTube, everything. That way you can like always just kind of go back to it. But I love doing that. That's like one of my favorite things to kind of get started on. And you want to understand, how do consumers perceive the other brands, the other products, the other activities, and what are consumers saying about the competition, right? And then this will kind of help you start to think about how you might start talking about your own brand and product to customers. So this, again, we're thinking about what is a product, education, going really deep there. Then take a step back away from the product yourself and say, okay, where is everybody? How are consumers, operating right now? And then what's going to make you different, stand out? This is super helpful. The next part of research is reading reviews and surveys. Now, obviously, as you get bigger and bigger, you have more reviews, you have more surveys. So that makes this section a lot easier. If you're starting out, you might identify the type of person that you want to be marketing to. Reach out to them. Ask them, hey, I'll pay you for your time. I have a couple questions, whatever. But as you grow, you have a customer base that you can get reviews from and survey data from. So you can do post-purchase surveys. You can do quizzes. all of that information is super important. It tends to be underutilized. What I love to do is take the reviews, download a CSV file, drop that into, we use Coda, which is kind of like Notion, drop that in there, and then you get a word bubble and you can see like, okay, what are the most common words in the reviews? Then I might search by those reviews and read reviews. I might then grab interesting reviews like, oh, that's a long review. That's a story. Tell me more about that. And I start to pick that out and I start to grab those and just maybe hold on to like 10, 30 different reviews that have interesting stories. Those could eventually be ad ideas in and of themselves. But the point is like, oh, this is really interesting. They took time to talk about the product, how it changed their life, whatever. You'll also start to see common themes across the different common words that you're getting. Now, one other great thing is with that CSV file, you can drop that into ChatGPT. You could say, what are some common themes or common reasons people are buying? So you could start to use maybe AI a little bit to kind of just like look through the thousands of reviews. So you don't have to read through 1,000 reviews. AI can do that really quickly, and that can really help. These are super great to use maybe for ads or maybe even a script. Like we have taken some people's words because the way that the consumer has seen the product and described it is like, yes, that's it. And we've had some of our top winning ads. I think there's one specifically that I know is like the person was talking about how the product felt in their hand. And we're like, oh, that's a great way of describing this product. Let's make that as a headline and spending tens of thousands of dollars because it's such a great headline for a static. So this information is super, super valuable. But again, don't have to start writing scripts right now, right? Like we're still in the process of researching and doing all those things. Then we've got a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. I don't care how great you think your product is and how amazing it is. You need to know your weaknesses. You need to be honest with yourself. You got to be able, you're going to better communicate your product when you are honest with yourself of like what your weaknesses are. What are your opportunities? What are your threats, right? Like you got to go through these things. I love to do it from the perception or perspective of the consumer, right? So how do they perceive buying from you? What will they see as a strength and what will they see as a weakness? Things that maybe you could avoid or opportunities and things you could focus on. So SWOT analysis, very easy. Then I like to go through hesitations and reasons to buy. So you list out, what are the hesitations to buy? What are the reasons to buy? Now, hesitations are hurdles in the journey for a consumer to buy your product. And knowing what a consumer's hesitation is actually a superpower. Like a lot of people are like, oh, what are the product features? And like, here's the reasons to buy. No, I want to know why people wouldn't want to buy. Because then I got to make sure that every ad speaks directly to those hesitations. The ad should speak to those hesitations in a way that it actually allows them to jump over those hurdles faster and become a customer. And so I loved, just as much as you should list out reasons why people should buy, you need to list out why people would be hesitant to buy. And then from there, when you are proofreading a script, which we'll get to a little bit later, you can double check, okay, does this script help people get past these hesitations? This might feel obvious, but many people really haven't done these kind of like smaller steps when it comes to thinking about hesitations and stuff like that. So this is a huge thing that I love to point out. Now, let's get to kind of the core aspect of our process here at Goodo Studios that's just different, which is reference points. All right. This is something that we've built internally, but it's based on the work of Gerald Zaltman. Okay. Gerald Zaltman is also a great guy. He kind of came up in the 80s, but he is like the guy who really established consumer psychology. Like when we talk about consumer psychology, like Zaltman was like the OG of consumer psychology. So let's kind of break that down for a second before we get into reference points, which is that 95% of human thought is subconscious. Okay. 95% of human thought is subconscious. The subconscious does not think in words or in language. It thinks in imagery and emotions. So let's say that again. 95% of human thought is subconscious, and it's not thinking in words or language, right? It actually thinks in just images and emotions. And so the subconscious is what makes decisions, the buying decisions, okay? And that subconscious thinks in imagery and emotions. So a lot of times when a customer is like, oh, I bought because of this, this, and this, they might be lying to you. It's probably not the full truth, but it's not their fault. It's just that like what they're feeling in their subconscious is very hard to speak into words because it's filled with different emotions and imagery and things like that. And funny enough, you think about the movie In and Out. In and Out 2 is coming out too. You think about the movie In and Out, and it's a perfect description and visual of how the mind works. You've got all of these old experiences that come up and they play into the emotions. And then you could see how all those things come into decisions that are happening on the outside. And that's the same thing, but just with buying and commerce and stuff like that. But the point is that it is very hard to describe the words using words and language to fully capture the emotions and imagery in the subconscious. So most likely people will buy because of the images that they see or how it makes them feel. And they connect that with so many different past experiences. And it all happens so fast. And then boom, they buy. And then they'll be like, oh, I bought because the filter of this, air filter is better than blah, 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 blah. Well, you probably bought because you were afraid of the air and how that would affect your life. And, you don't want to grow old and not be able to breathe. And you think about your family and all those things coming together. And that's why you bought it. But like out loud, you might say something. Because again, the 5% that is conscious is thinking in language because that's how we talk. But the buying decision is so much deeper. And what we want to do is get to the subconscious. And we do that through reference points. So, person, they've never heard of your brand. They've never heard about your product. They don't know anything about you. But how can they actually be able to spend money on you? It's because we can use a reference point to connect what is known and unknown together. Unknown, brand, product. What's known is their feelings, their emotions, the experiences they've had, good, bad, all the stuff. And what we want to be able to do is use a reference point to kind of connect those two things together. Okay, you don't know anything about this brand, but man, you know what it's like to have bad skin. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect into bad skin, what that made you feel like, and also connect into the experience of what it was like that day you had really great skin, how that made you feel confident, I love myself, all these things. We're going to connect those known things to this product, okay? This brand you've never heard of, this skincare brand you've never heard of. And when we can connect that, what is familiar, the bad experiences, life experiences, good, bad, to what is unfamiliar, now we make that actually familiar. So you've got bad skin, but now you've got this product that can actually help you with your skin so you feel amazing, confident, all this stuff. All of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I connect this product to those feelings and that transformation of feelings, okay? And that is a reference point. What we have is 7 reference points, okay? There's balance, journey, transformation, container, connection, resource, and control. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down each of these reference points. There's 7 of them. I'm going to break them down, and you can then use this however you want. But this is a really great thought process to do, exercise to do. Not every single reference point is going to work for your brand, your product. So some of these are going to be more of a stretch or not at all, and that's totally fine. But the fact that you're thinking more about the emotions and visuals is going to help you so much more when it comes to writing your scripts and your ideas. So first one is balance. Balance means representing equilibrium or stability. It can also be a state of inequilibrium, right? So when things are out of whack, right? So in marketing, it can refer to how a product brings balance or stability to a customer's life. But also, again, as I said, the imbalance, you could think about the before, right? Before the product there's so much imbalance and instability in a customer's life, right? So you could think about just ideas and visuals of how a product can restore, maintain that balance, whether that's emotional, physical, and practical. So usually like what I like to do is you have under each of these reference points, we just write out a ton of different ideas. So let's take the skincare. It's like, okay, skincare was filled with acne, or skin was filled with acne. That's out of balance. And now skin is clear of acne. That's in balance. And then you write down as many ideas that you have. They can be big picture, close up, like it doesn't matter, just like a bunch of ideas on balance, right? Then you go to the next one, journey. So it embodies the concept of a path or progression. It's about the experience or transformation that occurs from start to finish over time, right? So it is the journey between the trip between state A and state B. So how does this apply? So the position of the product. So position of the product, like kind of like the customer's personal journey. You're highlighting growth, change, the process of achieving goals. So you could think about like, get ready for a date with the makeup, or finding confidence with clothes that finally fit. Again, what was it like to be I've been, maybe for a brand, it's like, I've been searching for so long for clothes and I can never do that. So I could finally, the journey between getting clothes that don't fit to getting clothes that do fit. Transformation is about the change, evolution, like the actual significant shift between state A and state B. So it's the stark difference. Journey is kind of like the trip between those two. Transformation is that before and after, right? So this to this, right? So before and after, acne to no acne. And you want to just list out all those moments of transformation. Container. So container can keep things in, but it also can keep things out, right? So it's not just about what's inside, it's also about what things keep out, right? So you could think about organization, security, order, things like that, right? So you could think about there's no artificial ingredients, so that's keeping things out. Or you could be like, there's 5 use cases in one makeup item. So how many uses fit into this one makeup item? The last 3 are connection, resource, and control. So you've got connection. This symbolizes relationships or like a link between 2 people or things. It's just about bonds, right? So how does a product connect people, ideas, and build communication, relationships, things like that? So feeling closer with your wife after giving this gift, or hosting friends and family at the center with the new dining room table, right? Or this popcorn maker gives great experiences with me and the family. So like you're thinking about how you're connecting with your loved ones because you're able to create this experience through this popcorn maker. Shout out to Bob Smith. Resource. This is a tool to do something, right? So this material keeps your roof from leaking. You can finally organize your gym bag. So it's a tool to achieve an end result that you're looking for. And the last one is control. So the ability to influence and manage or direct, this feeling of power, autonomy, mastery, right? So you can also think about before the product, how the person could be out of control, lack the mastery, lacks the autonomy, right? So confidence after being acne free. I'm in control now, right? Because I now feel good about my skin. You can think about, I never have time to be creative or have hobbies. Okay, now you're out of control, right? So you don't have the control of the time of your schedule the way you want to. So we've got these 5 reference points. There is a lot there, right? I told you we're going in depth. We're not even, have I even written a script yet? No, I have not even written a script. It is insane, okay? But doing these exercises is really going to be like the building block of creating great ads. And probably by the time you've done this, you're going to have like 100 ideas, which is awesome. This is great. This is exactly what we want. And hopefully if you're still listening to this, watching this, it's like, nobody's talking about this type of stuff. Nobody wants to go in depth on this. It's hard work to do these things. But if you do this, it is going to help you unlock winning ad angles, and you're not you're not guessing, right? You're really thinking intentionally about these things. Now, the next step is visual references. I love this, right? Because we've talked about how the subconscious thinks in emotions and in images. You want to get visual references, right? So I think too many people just kind of like look at an ad and just copy it, It's like, okay, don't just like copy that, but like there might be some interesting things. There could be like, oh, that was a really interesting way that they did that. Let me take that, right? So, oh, I loved how they shot that from that perspective. Like we should do something similar to that, right? So grab it. If you like the hook, try and take it. Use the framework. Like don't just like steal it right off the bat, but definitely try to find visual references. This can be really helpful. I suggest building kind of a swipe file of ads, photos, videos, everything that you can find. You got to have it. This is really helpful as well as you're like trying to work with editors later on, which we'll talk about, because you really want to have something that they can work off of visually as well. All right. Now we've done the research phase of things. This is amazing. But think about before you even sit down to write a concept, think about how much knowledge and understanding and depth you have. This is like the best thing ever, right? Like this is going to be so helpful and it's going to make writing so much easier. All right. Let me tell you about the perfect brief. Angle and goal of the video. You got the script, shot list, and then visual references and ad references. All right. You can use many different things to create a great brief. You could use Airtable, Google Docs, Excel sheets, a table essentially. We use Milanote. I'm not sponsored. I'm not sponsored by anything. I should probably be sponsored, but I'm not sponsored by Milanote, but gosh darn, we use it a lot. And, it's basically just like a visual board for production, which is awesome. I love it. So we use Milanote, but whatever you use, you need these 4 aspects: angle/goal of the video, script, shot list, and visual references/ad references. Cool. Let's dive into angle, goal of the video. So before you even start writing the script, I know you got lots of ideas. You need to answer this one question. It's one question, and it is, if the viewer can only learn one thing, what is that one thing you want them to know by the end of this ad? Let me repeat that question again. If the viewer can only learn one thing, what is the one thing you want them to know by the end of this ad? So when you're talking to people and making ads, this is what I start with. This is the question I start with. And a lot of times when I'm talking to people who are making ads and I ask them that, the script does not line up with whatever they answered that question. So this really gives you a core guidance of where you're going to go with the script, right? So don't just start launching into hooks all of a sudden. Think about, what do you want to accomplish in this ad? And by just doing that, you're going to have a better success of writing a great ad. Guarantee it. But let's jump into the script. Why don't we? We've done so much work on the research. Now let's talk about the script. First off, all right, we are talking about videos here, but the highest impact of an ad is the copy and script. Okay. Whether that's for static ads or video ads, it does not matter. Writing is everything. Writing is so important. I don't care about AI. Writing is important. You need to know how to write. Okay. This is key. And you shouldn't just let anybody just run with scripts. If they've never done any of this research before they create, that is not it. And the reason why people struggle with coming up with great ads is because they're outsourcing their copy to creators who frankly shouldn't be writing their copy. Okay. I'm not saying that all creators are bad, but most of the time, when brands are not getting results, it's because the brief and the copy really is not strong. And it's because it's not owned by somebody who's done research on the brand. And I'm talking about very, very depth of research, the stuff that we just talked about. That takes weeks to do, right? And I'm not saying that anybody, you have to do weeks of research to come up with an ad. But the point is that it's not just something you just hand off and just whatever, anybody can write copy. No, not everybody can write copy, right? I think anybody can learn copy. A good place to start would be research though, right? So make sure you're thinking about the research and then think about how impactful the copy can be. All right. So you need to start with a hook or a headline if you're making a static ad. All right. I would spend 5x the time on writing your hook. Okay. Write out multiple hooks. I'm talking 20, but only pick 2. All right. You should not rush this part because most people aren't getting past the hook. All right, David Ogilvy says, I think he said 80 cents. 80, let's go with 80 cents. 80 cents of the dollar goes to the headline. And if you put that into common, present terms right now, 80 cents of your dollar is going to the hook of a video. 80 cents. That's 80% of views and 80% of, effort, or is just going, all your money is going to the hook. You should spend a lot of time there, right? Really think about how you're setting it up. You could be writing. Don't worry about the visuals yet, but just think about the script. Now, there's plenty of different frameworks that you can use beyond the hook, right? There's like AIDA, PAS, which is pain, agitate, solve. There's a bunch of different ones. You can look these up. There's 12 frameworks or so. There's probably even more than that, honestly. But you can use some sort of framework to then write the rest of the script. Now, again, the key when it comes to writing great copy is that each line needs to build off of each other, right? There's never a ad that is too long if it is engaging, right? There can be ads that are almost too short because they don't give you enough, right? Or you can have a short ad, but a boring ad because the copy is bad, right? Like it could be a 10-second ad and still be so boring, right? And there could be a 2-minute ad that's incredible. So copy is really the big thing. You want each line to kind of play off of each other. I'm down to using a framework that can help you give you some architecture, and then you kind of fill that in. Again, don't just copy a person, but I'm just saying you could use problem, solution, benefit, or educate, promote, inform, convert. There's all these different, classic copywriting formulas that you could base your script off of, right? Hook, really key, focus a ton of time there, then go into the meat of the actual script. I then do a shot list, right? So going to the next part of the brief, we've got angle, we've got script, and we've got shot list. Personally, if you think about a video, the way I see it is the visuals of an ad are just the visualization of the script. So what is being shown on screen should be cohesive with what is being said. And that's why I like to create B-roll instructions below each line of the script. So you write out the script, then you have lines of visuals into it, right? And if you want talking to the camera, say that for the visual. If you have a bunch of different ideas and crazy visuals and you want to match that with certain lines, awesome. If you have great scripts, if you have great copy, your visuals will be a lot easier to think of and build. Okay. Because again, you already kind of know, if you're talking about skincare and applying it, the skincare or whatever, it's well, you probably shouldn't be writing B-roll for the packaging, right? You should probably be doing something about the actual applying, right? So it just helps, right? The last thing is you need visual references, right? So describing what you see in your mind for an ad, it can be really hard. Talking about creative is a very difficult thing. Visual references allow us to show and talk about what we're looking for, right? So we go back to the swipe file. Why we want that swipe file is not because we're going to be let's just do the same ad that this other brand did. No, we don't copy, but take inspiration and be I love how they framed the shot. I love her attitude in this video. I love the editing of the captions, whatever it is. Giving reference can help not only the editor, but it actually helps the talent. Give them emotion of how they should talk on camera. It gives the editor a better idea for a certain moment when it comes to editing, or it helps the person who's shooting, whether that's a videographer in our case, or maybe for you, it's a creator, gives them an idea of how to actually shoot the best angles for themselves. References can clarify and make sure everybody is on the same page. It is a great thing. Now, as we finish up, the briefs for the editors, this is awesome. You want to actually take these briefs and give them to the editors, right? So if you're taking content from a library and mashing it up with an editor, you still need to have the brief above, right? If you're making an iteration, you still need to have a reason why you're making that iteration, what's going to be in it, visual references, be specific. Your editor will thank you for your clarity. Also, your editor is not a direct response marketer. They're an editor. They are perfecting how to edit a video. They're not thinking about it from the perspective of like performance marketing. Over time, they should understand those things and the basics, but they shouldn't be on the hook for creating that. It should be your creative strategist or whoever's in charge of creative strategy. That is actually their role to do. It also allows them, the editors, keeps them from spending a ton of time looking for clips and coming up with ideas because you actually have a specific vision for the ads that you're looking for. Now, we don't do a ton with creators. We don't work with creators, but I want to talk about them for a quick second as we finish up. If you are working with creators, this is what I think you want to have in your briefs as well. Beyond just that great brief, you should give them a deck on your brand and product. So do all the research that we did at the beginning, give it to them. That deck should then catch the creator up to speed on who you are, how the customers are thinking and whatnot. You should give creators a do's and don'ts list for their content. This will actually minimize a lot of reshoots and edits and stuff like that. But it also, for you, can clarify what you're looking for to get better results. And then I personally would give them a built out script to work off of. Give them some flexibility to kind of riff from the script to make it more natural, but give them structure. You should own that part. Like, again, you've done the research. You should be copy is so important. So to just have some random person just like have some random copy is not usually the way. Again, have them make it more natural to them or whatever, but give them structure, give them a framework. This is better for the creator. It allows them to be spending more time on being creative versus coming up with the ideas in the shots and acting and stuff like that. And then lastly, give them 10 timelines and specific ways to communicate, links to upload the content, etc. I'm not going to talk a ton about them, but that's helpful when you're briefing them. But that's what should be in the brief for them. Okay, we have gone through so much. This has been an episode. Okay, I hope that you guys like this. This is everything that we're doing, right? You can see that like 70% of what I just talked about was actually just research. We didn't even get to talking about writing a brief until that last part. You can see how much goes into it. A lot. It's a lot. But I do think that this process is huge. It's huge. And if you do this, you will learn so much. And please don't be, prideful and say, oh, well, I know. Because let me remind you about that one time where I almost lost $1 million for the client by not running an ad. We don't know. Okay. We are constantly needing to be curious about the product, the brand, how to communicate about this product, how to communicate to customers. We got to always be curious about, as the brand is expanding, how do we expand our message? What new messages should we try? What new angles or ideas should we try? Curiosity is the key. So don't be prideful about what you do or do not know. Focus on researching, constantly push yourself for research, and that's it. All of these things, all of this frameworks, everything I'm saying right here will give you a better chance at making a great script, a great brief. That will give you a better shot at making a great ad. And in the next episode, we're going to talk about production. So we're going to go through all the things about shooting, what makes a great shot, edits, all that stuff. Then we'll talk about editors and how to edit. And then we're going to talk about data and looking at the stuff. So we've got a lot to go through. Okay, this is a masterclass. I can't believe this is even free, but it is. Because I don't think that we've got enough content like this that people are willing to go in depth. So if you're still here, you're still rocking with it, I appreciate you. And that's it. In the cutting room, snap, snip. I don't know if I like that yet or not, but in the cutting room, it's all about creative decision making, the things that people don't see behind closed doors. This is the director's cut. And we're going to show you everything that we're doing here at Goodo. I want to learn from you guys. So I want to hear if you guys do anything different than us. But this is our process just to get started. We haven't even written a script yet, but just to get started. That's it. Thanks so much for watching, listening, subscribe, all those fun things. You can catch me on the Twitters at Matthew Gattozzi. Check us out at Goodo Studios. And that's it. All right, y'all. Peace.